Mr. Speaker, turning to page 25 of the calendar, page 25, House Bill 388, bill to amend and reenact a section of the Code of Virginia relating to charter school funding. Report of the Committee on Education with amendments.
The gentleman from Virginia Beach, Mr. Davis.
Mr. Speaker, I move the committee amendment.
The question is on adoption of the committee amendments. As many as favor that motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The amendments are agreed to. The gentleman from Virginia Beach.
Mr. Speaker, this bill is all about fairness to our children with disabilities in school, specifically those that attend charter schools. The Commonwealth of Virginia is very generous with helping to support the requirements necessary to educate our children with disabilities around the Commonwealth, and so is the federal government. What this deal does is make sure that those monies follow the student to the public charter school so the public charter school can continue to provide those resources that are necessary for those children. There's no economic impact to the state or to the public school at all. It's just a matter of making sure the money follows the student. And I hope it's the pleasure of this body to engross the bill and pass it on to its third reading.
The gentleman from Fairfax, Mr. Sickles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Will the gentleman yield?
I'll yield, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman yields.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask the gentleman whether he considers this bill to be an unfunded mandate since it has a shall in there.
Mr. Speaker, I would say to the gentleman that it's not an unfunded mandate. Reason being is that we're passing the money from the school board to the charter school, but it's also at that point the charter school's responsibility to provide those services. So it truly is a net zero sum.
Further question, Mr. Speaker?
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman yield.
Does the gentleman have evidence that in a charter school situation that the school board who approves these charter schools is not sending the full amount of money to cover these charter school students?
Mr. Speaker, I would say to the gentleman, my experience having helped start a charter school in Virginia Beach and being on the Board of Governors, that it is not mandated that these funds be passed through, and only through the help of the public school associated with this public charter school has our charter school in Virginia Beach been able to provide those resources. So this truly is the cleanup language to make sure that other public charter schools around the Commonwealth don't encounter the same issue.
Further question, Mr. Speaker?
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman yields.
So would the gentleman agree that his school board decided not to pass on the full amount, and so that we need to, in Richmond, overrule the wisdom of the school board in a charter school situation? Is that what the gentleman is intending to do?
Mr. Speaker, I would tell the gentleman that what we're trying to do is make sure that the money that has been allocated to the school board for our children with disabilities follow those children with disabilities. It would be completely unfair for those monies to be utilized for something else besides the children with disabilities. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, I would tell the gentleman that if a locality decided to get rid of public charter schools, a system that this body created not that long ago to enhance the education system in Virginia, all they would have to do is withhold those funds and you would see charter schools shut down, especially those in the rural areas of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Further question, Mr. Speaker?
Will the gentleman yield?
I'll yield, Mr. Speaker.
Yield.
Mr. Speaker, I'm learning there's a lot more charter schools in Virginia than I thought there were. I thought there were just a handful. But my question would be on, wouldn't it be, if we are an advocate for charter schools and the school system, in its judgment now, is not paying all that you believe they should be paying for a student, that we are creating an incentive for the school board not to approve new charter schools?
Mr. Speaker, I would tell the gentleman not at all. I would tell the gentleman that all we're doing is making sure that the money for the children with disabilities follows the child with disabilities, and that money does not end up someplace else. And I would furthermore tell the gentleman that he's correct in that we only have a handful of charter schools, but when this body passed the verbiage to allow for them, they did so wanting to make sure it scaled and to grow across the Commonwealth. And I figure if we address this issue now as opposed to when there's 100 charter schools, we'd be much better off.
Final question, Mr. Speaker.
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'll yield.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask the gentleman again, if we are strong supporters of charter schools and we also respect the local control of private schools, as this General Assembly has, won't it be a problem if the cost tends to be the main problem now in getting a charter school approved? I mean, when the school board, at least up in Northern Virginia, when the school boards have looked at this, they say, We cannot afford to do this for such a small group of students. You know, our budget is stretched. And now we're going to, from Richmond, tell them, no, you're not paying enough for the charter school, so we're going to have to pay even more. And won't that be an impediment to achieving the gentleman's goal of building the charter school movement in Virginia?
Mr. Speaker, I would tell the gentleman actually it's just the opposite. First is these mandates of the resources that have to be provided for children with disabilities are not decided at the local school board level, but at the state of Virginia and the federal level. And monies are assigned to the local school board to handle our children with disabilities. So there is no impact. They don't lose money. The child is provided the same resources inside the charter school. The local school board would still have to pay the exact same dollar figure if that child had not gone to a public charter school, but rather stayed in the school system. And Mr. Speaker, I would tell the gentleman that this local school boards like the idea that our children with disabilities have the opportunity to go to these public charter schools, and also that the ability to provide that funding to make sure the resources are there is what allows this to happen.
Speak to the bill at appropriate time.